Welcome back, everybody, to another Growth Support Conversation. My name is Neil, and today I am joined by Alison Groves, which I'm super excited to dive into all things customer education and talk through really how you can get started helping your customers get the most out of your product and how to help them in the best way possible. So without further ado, Alison, you want to introduce yourself and where you're coming from?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Like Neil said, my name is Alison Groves. I'm the customer education lead at Help Scout. I've been at Help Scout for almost 7 years now, but before we started recording, Neil and I were just talking, and I've been a customer of Help Scout for almost 11 years now. So been in the Help Scout world for a very, very long time.
Yeah, indeed. And me being a customer myself now, I'm feeling the product of your work in that sense as well. I know my teams really appreciate it. So tell me, as a customer education lead, what is it exactly that you do in your day-to-day and in your role?
Yeah, I think customer education is a very, we use a big word for, it's just past 9 a.m. where I am, but it's a bit nebulous, right? Because there's so many components to it. But at its core, I think it's using everything at your disposal to help your customers learn about your product. So it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's not support, but it is kind of all of those things wrapped up together. And I think it's just like a slightly different approach and a muscle that people can grow coming out of the support work, because I've been in support for 15 plus years now. And just, you know, an extra avenues that you can go down as a support person to help your customers, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
And you mentioned like customer education, it is not support. And this is very different and leisurely, like really being able to use your full avenues of everything that you have to your capability. I'm curious when you say it's not that, because prepping also for this conversation, I was thinking, you know, like people probably also consider like knowledge management, customer education, and some of these other aspects as well. What do you think is the biggest differentiator between those customer support, knowledge management, and customer education?
I have this conversation a lot with my teammate, Melanie, who does our knowledge management. And in the beginning, we were always trying to work out, like, not necessarily who was responsible for what, but how we cannot do the same thing and sort of differentiate the work that we do that needs to be done. So to me, like, knowledge management is the how, and customer education is the why. So I look at things from a much higher level. So we kind of teach people like why they need to do certain things, whereas knowledge management, and I think even support to a certain extent, is like how you go from point A to point B. And those are, and as we're learning with like AI and how you need to like organize knowledge management for AI. And of course, that's a whole other 5-hour conversation that we have.
It definitely is.
But as you have to get into more and more active voice and like really explicitly explaining how to do something, it becomes more apparent that you also really need to do the why. Like, why would a certain type of person need to use this product to solve this problem? And that why can get very can get very large. So however you would want to explain the why, whatever avenue, like that to me is how we kind of differentiate customer education from knowledge management, support, whatever. It's informed by all of those things. Like, I still get in the queue. I'm still paying attention to what's going on, the problems that our customers are running into. But instead of trying to solve that from a like step-by-step how I would accomplish that, we're looking at it more holistically, more higher level, like, oh, well, you do this type of work. Let's walk through like why you would need to solve this problem in this way.
It's really interesting because you're not necessarily really just discussing the very practical aspects, even though you do teach people a lot of times in some of the programs that you run and the things that you do. but the more real case behind, okay, what do you actually want to achieve with using this product and how you can actually get there rather than just this is what you practically do with the thing.
Yeah, I mean, the how always will eventually play into it, right? And I think it's kind of like if we talk through the why, then I can link you to the how, and you can continue to go down that path. But we have so many different types of customers and so many different types of industries, and a lot of folks aren't even like really traditional support folks. They might be, a front office worker, or gosh, I could come up with 1,000 different examples, and they just need to hear the why in their own terms, in their own language, and things that resonate with them. And so I think there's just so much work that can be done in that kind of space.
Yeah, especially when you make it a personal experience in that sense where they actually do hear that common language and those common terminologies. I'm curious, you mentioned obviously there's a lot of different programs when you think of knowledge management and things like that. What do you consider, or what do you run as programs in your customer education portfolio?
Yeah, so we kind of started many, many years ago with the classes concept. And so in the beginning, I actually inherited it from some teammates who are no longer with us, but that predated my tenure at Help Scout. And I've done this at other places too. I did some things similarly at Zapier when I was there. I did some similar things at my very first software company many, many years ago that no longer exists, but we made SEO tools, and I kind of learned a lot of lessons there too, but around classes and not using the word webinar, because I really I think that there's a lot of like yes, yeah, I think there's a lot of like gross things that kind of come out of the word webinar, but it's basically like, how can I teach people, because doing one-to-one demos do not scale, and that's kind of like my original 15 years ago when I was just getting into this. That's how this started. I was employee number 2 at this SEO tool company that I was working at, and I was doing everything but they don't let me write code, which is a good thing. So we didn't have a sales team, we didn't have a support team, we didn't have a marketing team. I was all of those things. And I started doing one-to-one demos, and I was doing like 6, 7, 8 a day, and I just couldn't do that anymore. So all the classes stuff that I've done in that 15 years has kind of been formed from that, right? So when you scale and you cannot scale one-to-one anymore, one-to-many is the only avenue that you can do, right? And so people still need to have that, feel like they're having that one-on-one experience, but there could be 15, 20, 100 people on the call. And so that was at Help Scout, that's kind of where we started is, well, we cannot offer one-to-one demos to everyone who wants one. We'd have to like triple the team size. So let's teach the basics of the platform to anyone who wants to learn in this one-to-many way. And then we just started iterating on that. We iterated on when we did it. We iterated on what we taught. We even started breaking things down by parts of the product so that it wasn't just for new people who were curious and wanted to learn. It was for current customers who, maybe didn't touch this corner of the product yet and wanted to learn more about it, and we could kind of break things off in that direction. So for the last 7 years, that was just kind of what we did. And I've done probably 700 plus classes in my Help Scout tenure. And then it kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, let's kind of take what we've done with the classes concept and break it out in various different ways. So let's maybe write some help articles that, again, are not the how, but the why, but include that in our knowledge management system so that no matter what type of education someone might be looking for, they can find that all together there. And let's maybe teach a little bit more on our blog. And so it's all those little bits and pieces that kind of came from say, 15 years ago, and we were like, let's host a 30-minute, product demo, or essentially a class. And if you start thinking about what you do in your own product and how you might want to branch pieces off of that, I think this is a very long-winded answer, but I think it's a very good place to start. When you can start with like teaching your product or service to anyone who's curious, that will also show you what the other ways that you can kind of accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely. People learn in different ways as well. So
Yep.
somebody might not have time to join a class or something like that, and they'd like a different avenue or way to be able to get that same or similar information, where those different avenues really help. And also what you mentioned, breaking out specific parts of those product pieces and things. The reporting class, which is new, is also one that my team has also benefited from as well, as they're coming up and joining. And new people will always come in. For example, I might be really experienced with the Help Scout experience, but my support team member who's new and fresh might not be familiar with the tool. So it's a great opportunity for them as well.
Yeah, that's actually something that we do. We invite, if you add a new user to your Help Scout account, we invite them to come to one of what originally was meant to be like a product demo for new, like people in trial, or maybe even that were just curious. Now we invite new users added to existing accounts to that same class, because they need to learn the same thing, right? Like they're brand new, they maybe just started a job, they have no idea what this tool does, but they're supposed to sit down with it every day and work with it. So there's many different ways that you can teach the same concept to a lot of different kinds of people.
Absolutely. And ultimately the goal is, how can we help as many people make the most of our products as possible without equally amount of people joining the team.
Yeah. And the reporting class is a really good example of like having the core concept and infrastructure built around like how we do that, how we organize it, how we promote it, how we have it on our website. Then that allows us to take that same playbook and spin it out and do it into really any topic that we want. So we have the reporting class. I have another teammate of mine that was like, I want to do an AI specific one. I was like, great, go do it. So having that sort of core entity already done, then we can just sort of make anything we want. We don't have to do it all from scratch. Absolutely.
I really wanted to ask, because you recently went through a few very large transitions over the past couple of years.
Yep.
One going from what was previous Inbox 1 to now Inbox 2, and then from user-based pricing to, for example, usage and contact-based pricing. And those are really big transitions as an organization. What I want to do, I'm going to tell you a story.
Yeah, please.
That I've been thinking about going into this conversation, and then I want to ask you a bit of the user experience and the education side of it, because when I was thinking about this conversation, there's one particular thing that came to mind. Over the summer, there's this drink company that released a new drink. Historically, it's a beer, but they released a new flavor. So my wife was like, "Oh, sweet, let's get it. It's going to be great." And I, seeing the box and seeing the label, seeing everything, put ice in my cup and then poured the beer. She's like, "What are you doing? You don't do that. Like, why are you gonna put ice in your drink like that?" And me seeing the box and seeing the labels and seeing everything says, it says on the rocks. Like says put it in the cup, put the ice. It says everything everywhere on all the labels, put ice in it. And she's like, no, absolutely not. So my question is, how do you take users or customers who are used to having a certain habit and trying to educate them on all of the new concepts and things? So for example, the transitions from Inbox 1 to Inbox 2 and the contact-based pricing. How do you try and build those muscles around transitioning those existing habit-based customers into what would be the future of your organization?
I felt really strongly about, because to to answer your question in one sentence, I hosted probably like 60 inbox 2 classes over a 3-month period of time. But in doing that, I felt very strongly about having as empathetic of an approach to what I was teaching as possible. And by that, I mean, as I was taking people through the product, it was very easy for me to put myself in their position because I had just been there. I personally I've got a lot on my plate. And so since I'm not in the inbox all day, every day, every time we were testing a new portion of it in our own account, I would pop in and I'd be like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, what did this thing go? And so I was able very easily to put myself in our customer's shoes and be like, hey, I get it. Change is very hard. And I also use that experience of like, I've been using Help Scout for like 10 years now. So when one tiny thing from my own workflow changes, like, it really throws me off. And so I did that was how I framed the entire session, was like, I am you. I get it. But if you will just be, and I meant this wholeheartedly, I was just tell people, if you would just sit with it for a week or two, as I have had to do, I have come out on the other side and I get it. I understand it. I now have more choice in the ways that I work, and here's how you can do that. And so for me, that's how I was like, I very strongly, and I even had a long conversation with our CEO about it as well. Just telling him like, hey, this has been my own experience and this is how I'm going to bring people along with me, because there's nothing worse when you're frustrated. And especially in a product like ours, our customers are in our product all day, every day. It's how they do their job. And I take that very, very seriously. But on the flip side, I am also that same customer in our product doing that job all day, every day. So I get it. And I really wanted that when I was helping people through that transition. I really wanted them to understand that. Like, I am also in the same boat that you are. And we just have to learn how to make these changes, but let's do it together. And I think that worked well. But at the end of the day, like, my whole thing is, I am our customer, which I think is a very wonderful thing. I don't think a lot of people who do the kind of work, like any kind of education work, I'm very lucky in the sense that like, I am our own customer. So if you ever have to go through that process, which is very hard, we migrated, tens of thousands of customers to a completely redesigned platform in just a few months' time. And it was very difficult. But I think that if you approaching it in that way of like, I think I said the phrase change is hard like 5 times in that 20-minute class, but it's true. And I was feeling that pain. And I think that's what it really comes down to, right? Like, if you're doing change management, you have to put yourself in the person that you are teaching, in their shoes. And that makes, they can feel it, they can understand it, but also makes the message and the teaching, I think, work a whole lot better. At least I hope, anyway.
Well, I'm sure like the empathetic approach, like, you're also in it, right? So hearing
Very
it from
good.
somebody who's actually going through it is a much more real experience, rather than just somebody who was like, yeah, you should be doing it this way, who might not fully understand. Yeah, what you mentioned, we're in it every single day. We know all the buttons and the shortcuts and everything. So if something moves, it's like, I remember a lot of the.
If you hear someone, just acknowledge that, right? Like, to me, Allison's telling Neil, the customer, yeah, man, they moved this and it took me like 2 weeks to get used to it. So I feel where you are, but just hang with it. And in certain instances, I'd be like, actually, now, after I finally got used to it, I like this way better. And that would be true, right? So I think that yeah, like, it's very, very difficult, and you just have to like get people with you to stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember a lot of the discussions that were happening in the community as well around the changes and things that were happening at the time. It was really interesting to see how other customers were also approaching it and being able to have that open space for them to talk about it as well amongst each other, rather than always coming from just a member of the team. I am curious how the process looks like on the more functional side of it when it comes to the actual knowledge itself. Because one of the things that I hear around a lot in the industry when it comes to, product updates and new things coming out and stuff like that, well, we're the last to know and maybe the information needs to flow. But being in a position where you need to educate customers on those changes, you need to know well in advance of the changes that are coming down the pipeline and prepare for those changes. I'm curious what that flow looks like for you and how you've made it successful.
Yeah, I really want to advocate for building, for anyone who's listening, for building the best relationships that you can with various people across your company. So for example, I have really, really great relationships with all of our product managers. I was just on vacation with one of them over this past weekend. Having those good relationships with those product managers allows us to have a constant dialogue, and I have a pretty good idea. And they're also incredible about communicating their own timelines and what they're working on in the way that we sort of group our work together. So not only just me, but the whole company has a pretty good idea of like what's in production at any given time. But I take it upon myself to have those really good relationships with all of our product managers. And we work together on a lot of different things. And so that allows not only myself, but really the company on a whole, especially our support team, to have a really good idea of like, okay, X, Y, and Z is going to happen in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Let's be prepared for that. I know that, again, Melanie, who runs our doc site, so we'll say our knowledge management, also has her own very finely honed process for, getting information from the product side to understand what's happening. But it really, I think, truly comes down to taking it upon yourself, if you are in this sort of education space, to have that open dialogue with anyone on the product side. And not only does that allow me to like know what's going on, but it also allows me to have a voice in some of those things that they're doing. And I work closely with a lot of our PMs on even the product side of things before they go into production, and just have like, casual conversations about what customers need, and from my perspective, does this make sense? And where do you find certain areas of the product that cause confusion? Like, do you find yourself having to explain certain things more than others, and like, let's get ahead of that. So that, I think, is a huge part of this. You just have to have really, really good cross-functional relationships with so many different people, and that allows you to not be in that spot where something has launched and you don't know about it.
Customer asks you in a class, "Hey, what's this?" I don't know.
Not to say that doesn't happen. It happened to me last week, actually. Something very small. I knew the change was coming. I just didn't expect it in that moment. And then when it happened, I was like, oh no, I'm a little unprepared for this. But that's just kind of how working in product goes anyway. But yeah, there's so many relationships that I have, whether it's with product or sales or marketing or anything like that. Just is so, I couldn't do my job without those relationships.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, especially when it comes to not everything happens in a process or a workflow, right? Sometimes it just comes down to information gathering and just being able to understand the moving parts that are around you outside of the messages and updates.
Right. And you can over process too, I think, and which has its own issues. You have to leave space for the relationships, you have to leave space for the gray area. Nothing is ever going to go exactly to the letter of the process that you have laid out, especially when it comes to dealing with and working with other human beings. So yeah, I think really leaning on relationships wherever you can is just going to be so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I really appreciate all the advice and the stories that you've told from your experience and being able to share that experience with others. I am curious, one last question for you. Over the course of your career and your time, not necessarily just at Help Scout, but in general, professional, is there one thing that you've learned that you really still stick to today?
That's a really good question, Neil. I think just to go right back to the point I was just making in relationships, I learned, and I'm still learning this. I still have times where I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I'm right and you're wrong, and this isn't good, and that's not the best that's not the best attitude to take into that. But no matter what I have done across my tech career, and it's the reason why I've had so many different weird titles and things that I can do. I consider myself like a deep generalist. I don't really specialize in one thing. And I really think it's because it's so important to me, and has been from when I got into this, to form those really good relationships with people. Even engineers, some of my, dearest, closest, work relationships have been with engineers. Even just yesterday, which was a US holiday, I was having an issue with something, and I was trying to do right by a customer, and I knew that our European teammates would be working yesterday. And so I just sent out a message. I was like, hey, can someone please, I just need 5 minutes. Can you help me with this? And just like that, it was done. And I don't think that that could happen if a cornerstone of my career wasn't help as many of your teammates as you can, be the best teammate that you can, but also care and build the best relationships that you can. I think that's going to serve you no matter what job you do, whether you're in tech or not. And yeah, and I know I'm an extrovert, so it comes very easy to me. And I know that can be more difficult for folks who kind of like to work on their own and are more introverted. But the more of yourself that you can give to your teammates, and the better you can get to know them and build those relationships, there's really no other way, I think, to work and to thrive, because I need them as much as I need, myself. So we can't do any of this without the people around us. And that takes work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, you can't do great work without great people around you. Yeah. And the only way you're going to do that is also being that person yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And also for you joining me and having the conversation in the first place. If people wanted to reach out to you and continue the conversation, is there a best way that they could do that?
Yeah, you can always, anyone's always welcome to email me. Alison@helpscout.com. It's very simple. There's just one L in my name, ALISON. I'm also on LinkedIn, which I know is becoming this fun place where everyone's kind of congregating and hanging out. So I'm there. My name, Alison Groves. We're also all together on Support Driven, right? Which is so much fun.
It's true.
So if you're in Support Driven, I'm there. Come join us in the Help Scout channel. I would love to get more conversation going in the customer education channel there as well, because I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other and help each other with. And I would love to be a part of that. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And with that, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.